It's time for some straight talk. The big wireless companies charge a boatload for their superior network coverage. But guess what? Straight Talk uses the same cell towers but charges a lot less. Who knew? Well, now you do. And I do. So let's do something. It's time to switch to Straight Talk. Unlimited plans start as low as $35 a month on America's largest, most dependable networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. A month equals 30 days. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. The tweets through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. And Golick, one tweet is from Eric, and he needs our help.
Okay.
Eric Hecker tweets, Greeny, he aimed this at me.
All right,
You'll know why in a moment.
Okay.
And you heard me reference it in the open there. He tweets, I need parenting advice, Greeny.
Oh.
My first child is due in November.
Okay.
I'm a Browns fan.
Right.
My wife is a Steelers fan. What do I do?
Wife wins.
I mean, let's. Wife wins because the wife always wins, or because the Steelers are good and the Browns are terrible?
This is twofold. The Pittsburgh Steelers have consistently been a great organization for years, and happy wife. Happy wife.
In my particular case,
easy decision.
I married a Chicago girl, and there's no rivalry between the Jets and the Bears, so I don't mind, that the kids know that we root for the Chicago teams, for mommy and all that kind of stuff. If I had married a Patriot fan through all of this, if the circumstances were what they are right now, okay, and you heard me say it in the open there, I literally apologized to my son yesterday, sitting on the couch. The look on his face when they lost that game, I felt sick for him.
I'm with you. All right, that's a good question.
So if I had married a Patriot fan, let's just say we were having a baby now.
Yes.
And
your wife was a Patriot fan.
And she's a Patriot fan.
Right.
What would I do? Would I insist? Would I fight for the Jets, or would I just allow?
There are three choices. You fight to have it as a Jet fan.
Right.
You fight. You let the wife win, or you find a new wife. I mean, those are your three choices.
Those are probably the three things.
Three choices.
I agree with you. It's a tough one. So what do we tell Eric?
I think for the sake of the kid, and that's the thing. It's not like nobody's a Steeler fan, and you're just going to have them follow the Steelers. You do have a Steeler fan in the household. It happens to be the person that's going to run the household. I think that's just an added bonus.
But it's an arch rival. I mean,
it is.
The Steelers don't consider the Browns their arch rival, which only makes the Browns angrier.
No, I think, listen, what do we do as parents for our kids? We make sacrifices.
Right.
This is a sacrifice he has to make. He has to say.
Does he have to? So does Eric. It's Eric Hecker. Does he have to go out and buy like a Ben Roethlisberger jersey?
No, he doesn't have to do it. He can just explain when the kid gets old enough to understand.
No, but what's the kid wearing? What's the kid wearing in the crib?
Stuff.
Steeler stuff.
Steeler stuff.
So
where does he live, by the way? Does it say where he lives?
No, it doesn't say. Well, let me go to his.
Well, tougher if they live in Cleveland and now he's going to school. And
he's a fan of all the Cleveland teams. First of all, okay, so his avatar is him in an Indians jersey. The big picture behind it, whatever you call this, your screen, whatever that is, on your Twitter bio, is the Indians ballpark. It's Progressive Field. And then, like, everything that he lists here are all Indians, Buckeyes, Browns, Cavs. He is a crazy fan of all of the Cleveland teams.
Well, I mean, can the son, he raise a son or daughter? I don't know if it's son or daughter.
The baby's not born yet.
Well, I don't know if they know.
Right.
I don't
know either.
You can find these things out. Maybe you can say, go ahead, hon, you take him to be a Steeler fan, but I'm going to have him be an Indians fan. Can you do that?
Well, I mean, you can, but I mean, we're really just dealing with one thing here. Now we're negotiating. We're going to root for my teams in this sport and your teams in that sport.
I'll give you football. I get baseball.
Well, the Indians are great, and the Pirates have not been in the World Series in a long time.
Bottom line, back to the beginning of this, you say, hon, you raise him as a Steeler fan. I understand. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make to my unborn child.
But does that mean that you are then going to be walking around? I'm trying to imagine myself.
You don't have to.
Walking around carrying a baby wearing a little Tom Brady onesie.
No, you don't. I didn't say you had to change your allegiance. It's just the kid.
No, but the baby's going to be wearing the onesie.
So what?
So you're going to be taking photos of yourself. Oh, look, here's my son wearing the Tom Brady onesie.
Yes.
That's a
and they say, why? Well, my wife's a fan of the...
It's a bitter pill.
Listen, as soon as you say my wife's a fan of the Patriots, everybody will go, oh, okay, we get it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're still new to this fan thing. I got to work with you a little bit on it. We don't necessarily take things so rationally. All right, is Booger ready to go? Am I being told? He is. All right, beautiful. Booger McFarland is ready to go. He's on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line as we go through all the different happenings around football, both college and pro. Good morning, Booger.
Top of the morning, guys. What's going on?
We're doing well.
Yep.
Let's jump into a little bit of the college because we didn't get to it much. And I said to Golick, between Notre Dame and Penn State, they completely ruined my Saturday night because I sat down, I was all excited to watch some great football, and I had the Yankees. So I got the clicker working, and the Yankees get shut out. And then the two games I was looking forward to watching that night were both very one-sided. So give me your take on those two teams, Penn State and Notre Dame, and how impressed you were with their performances in their spotlight wins in the primetime games.
Well, I'll start with Penn State, Greeny. I think we all were looking forward to seeing what Penn State was going to do when they got tested against a very, very good Michigan defense. We wanted to see Saquon Barkley have a signature performance as he continues on his road to the Heisman Trophy. And, man, both of those things happened. I thought the versatility that Saquon Barkley showed, I thought their defense was outstanding. And more importantly, it was more people than just Saquon Barkley making plays. He was outstanding, but Trace McSorley was good. Deshaun Hamilton was very good. That defense, Jason Kabinda, Marcus Allen. So everyone played well, and I thought Penn State did what they should have done, which is beat a Michigan team that was offensively inept, and they set up a showdown in Columbus against Ohio State. We'll find out more about Penn State. But my biggest takeaway from the weekend was Notre Dame. And Golick, you should be thumping your chest because Notre Dame let everyone know that, guess what, we are a national championship contender, especially if we can continue to win down the stretch. If Notre Dame wins out, in my humble opinion, if they win out, they are guaranteed a playoff spot because of the toughness of their schedule, because of how they're playing. And Josh Adams let everyone know, hey, Brandon Wimbush may be the quarterback, but this offense starts and runs through me running the football. And I would like to say that he is, right now, for me, he is my dark horse Heisman candidate along with Barkley, Mayfield, and Bryce Love out at Stanford. To me, those are the four guys right now I would put in there.
Yeah, Josh Adams should be in it. He's got to be in the conversation now. 6'2", 2.25, just under 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, over 9 yards a carry. He is a stud on that offense, a nice veteran line. That defense has been playing so much better as well. Yeah, I agree with you about Notre Dame unless we have 3 undefeated teams, which I don't see happening. We've never had more than 1 in the Final Four, so I see others losing as well, so Notre Dame could have a chance in. But
even if you have 3 undefeated, so Booger, we were actually doing this in a break before, so let's the three of us just sort of talk this out. Alabama, Georgia, only one of them can emerge unbeaten from the SEC.
Right. Correct.
Right? Penn State and Wisconsin, only one of them can emerge unbeaten from the Big Ten, if indeed anyone does. So we're just saying this is maximum now. And TCU in the Big 12. That's it, right? There's no other unbeaten team.
That's it. So my thought, Booger, on that with Notre Dame was if Notre Dame ran the table, and it is a tough schedule. Again, North Carolina State, they're ranked 14th. They still have the U as well, and Stanford, who has the leading rusher in the country, and Bryce Love. My thought was that if they go 11-1 and Georgia loses to Alabama by a field goal in the SEC championship game, Georgia's one loss is a better loss than Notre Dame's one loss, which would have been to Georgia, that Georgia still may get in over Notre Dame because they beat them head-to-head, even though we know head-to-head sometimes doesn't matter.
Yeah, sometimes head-to-head doesn't matter. Case in point, just look last year with Penn State and Ohio State. I think what happened this weekend, guys, is we can eliminate the Pac-12. I think as we continue to move on, certain conferences are going to be eliminated. The Pac-12, with USC getting just smashed up at South Bend, I think we can eliminate them. Now we move to the Big 12. The Big 12 has to hope that TCU continues to win, especially November 11th at Norman against Oklahoma. And eventually, in my opinion, the Big 12 may cancel themselves out. And go to your point, if it's a classic game, let's just say Alabama and Georgia get to the SEC championship game, they're undefeated. And Georgia loses a close game by 3. How come we couldn't get Alabama, Georgia, the winner of the Big Ten, and Notre Dame into the playoff? To me, that's a likely scenario if all this plays out. I think the one thing that the College Football Playoff Committee hasn't had to deal with yet is Notre Dame, because Notre Dame has always been the wild card. We know Notre Dame's brand. They're a blue blood. We know everything about them, their history. I got to think that if Notre Dame is 11-1 and having gone on a roll since the Georgia loss, it would be hard for a committee of 13 to look at that Notre Dame team, regardless of what else happens around the country, and say we can't get them in the playoff.
If nothing else, they make the conversation real interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll find out then if the lack of playing in a conference does hurt them. If for all this year, we're talking about whether Notre Dame would ever join a conference, Mike, and we all understand. Don't do it if you don't have to. That could actually be evidence that they have to. If they do go 11-1 and get left out, you probably would point to the fact that if they had a conference championship game, they'd have gotten themselves
Yeah, I mean, you have to find out a place where it really costs you, and if it doesn't, they have to rethink that. All that said, they sit there and play North Carolina State, who North Carolina State plays Notre Dame, and then next week Clemson. How about them if they were to go on a little 2-week run there? I mean, then all this stuff blows up again.
To be clear, all we did in that exercise before I'm going to save you all the tweets. All we did was play out a scenario where Notre Dame wins out. So I know the U is winning games. My point is they play each other.
Yes, they do.
But for the purposes of this example, Notre Dame would have to have beaten them and NC State and all the rest of that.
Exactly right.
How about Clemson then? What happens in our little exercise there, Booger? What happens to a one-loss Clemson that wins an ACC championship but doesn't play Notre Dame?
I think a one-loss Clemson is going to get put into the meat grinder where all the people in the room are going to say, okay, what about their strength of schedule? What about who they lost to? The Syracuse loss, they honestly need Syracuse to continue winning so that loss can look a little better. I think if you're someone out there on that committee and you're looking at the strength of the conferences around the country, you got to say that the SEC and the Big Ten are the two strongest conferences, followed by the ACC, Big 12, Pac-12 in that order. So I think, Greeny, that even though Kelly Bryant was hurt, even though he came into the game not healthy, I think when you look at it that way, Clemson may just be a 12-1 ACC champion left out because of that loss and also because of the strength of the SEC, the big brand of Notre Dame. We all want Notre Dame in this. I know we're talking semantics here, but I got to think that Notre Dame playing a major role in this year's college football playoff is going to weigh on the mind of the committee, especially since they haven't done there and been there before.
Is this the week we look to game day is going to Ohio State for Penn State? I blame Herb Street for that he wanted it.
Me
there.
too. You got to stop saying this. Herbie's going to get upset.
I'm blaming him. They should be going to Notre Dame where I could be the celebrity picker if it were the Notre Dame North Carolina State game. But no, Herbie wants it at his alma mater, so that's going to be there because Herbie's Herbie. So I'm sorry, I ranted a little bit. Does Ohio State coming off the bye week give us that's one of the big matchups this weekend? Penn State coming off just smoking Michigan, going down to the Horseshoe.
We're going to find out a lot about Ohio State. They came out in the first game of the year ago, early in the season against Oklahoma. And we learned that JT Barrett really hasn't gotten a lot better. Now, over the last 4 or 5 games, man, he's looked tremendous. He's throwing the football well. Everyone's talking about him maybe being a Heisman candidate. I don't know that because the competition has really been terrible. We're going to find out if JT Barrett and Kevin Wilson have figured this offense out. I'm so interested in that because I think we know what Penn State is. Penn State is a tough physical defense. Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley, they're very creative on offense. I honestly don't know what to make of Ohio State, and we're going to find that out because, as my old college coach would say, it's a poor dog that won't fight in his own backyard. Penn State's coming to your house. They're coming on your field. The last time we saw a big game at Ohio State, Baker Mayfield was planting a flag. Are they going to let Penn State come in there and do what Oklahoma did? I can't wait to watch it.
Mike and Mike Booger McFarland is with us. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. James Franklin, the head coach of Penn State with the huge win this past weekend, is going to join us in about 10 minutes. Let's get a couple of quick NFL thoughts from you, Booger. And let's start in that NFC South that you know so well. You know those Buccaneers. You make your home in Tampa. You and I were both very high on them coming into this season. They've been a colossal disappointment. Carolina goes to Chicago and puts up basically nothing, gets beat by the Bears defense, and that alone yesterday. Atlanta looks like a shell of themselves, and here come the New Orleans Saints, red hot and getting pedicures in celebration today. Is all that for real?
Well, I think when you look at the NFC South, I think the Saints have a formula right now. The defense has gotten better. And what do we always say? If the defense would just help Drew Brees out a little bit, Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He can get it done. I like where the Saints are. I like the fact that it can be addition by subtraction, meaning you got rid of Adrian Peterson. So now the weight of having to play him, the weight of having to deal with that is gone. So now everybody else can become more comfortable. So I definitely love where they are. As far as the Buccaneers, really, the Buccaneers simply don't know how to win. They're a young football team that's got a lot of talent. They got a lot of pieces, but they don't know how to win, and that's evident by the way they lost that game yesterday. You look at Carolina, and guys, I'm sorry, we're trying to figure out whether last year was the anomaly or the norm for Cam Newton. It seems like it's the norm, and the MVP year was the anomaly. And we can blame the shoulder. We can talk about the injury. Cam Newton has been an inaccurate quarterback for the better part of his career. He had one magical year where he won the MVP. But other than that, he's always been inaccurate. And I think the lack of playmaking around him has always been questioned. You bring in Christian McCaffrey, you're thinking that he'll help Cam with the checkdowns. I just think that this is going to be Carolina going forward because the quarterback is going to always be inconsistent. So I think the New Orleans Saints are in really, really good shape. As far as the Falcons, the offensive coordinator is making a big deal. Someone once told me that I can give you all the ingredients in the world to make a great meal, but if you don't know how to put it together, Greeny, what good is it? And I think you're seeing that in Atlanta right now. They got a lot of pieces. They got a lot of vegetables. They got a lot of meat. But for some reason, Steve Sarkisian just can't cook up that great meal, and I think you can point the finger to that. The defense is still playing pretty decent, but I think the offense is struggling.
Staying in the NFC, we're going to see the best team in the NFC tonight. The Eagles take on the Redskins on Monday Night Football. Should be a really good one there. How about another team? Where would you put them in the NFC? Let's say Sam Bradford, they can't count on him. Teddy Bridgewater still not playing. Let's say Case Keenum, he's your quarterback. And the Minnesota Vikings just beat Baltimore. They play Cleveland this weekend, one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're sitting at 5-2 atop that division. Where do you put them in the NFC?
I think you could kind of put them in there. I think they'll compete for a wild card. In the end, normally the law of averages always play out. Case Keenum has been a backup quarterback for most of his career. And I think the law of averages, he's not going to all of a sudden turn out to be a franchise quarterback. Can he play well? Yes. Is he going to be inconsistent? Yes. The defense is going to be really good. He'll have some good games. He'll be up and down. But I think in the end, the Vikings can compete for a wild card. There's a reason that they went out and got Sam Bradford. There's a reason they drafted Teddy Bridgewater. They wanted and needed a franchise quarterback. And I don't think Case Keenum is that. He's very serviceable. But the job of a backup is to be there for 3 or 4 games while that starter is sitting down. When that starter comes back, the backup goes back to the bench. And I think eventually Case Keenum's consistency is going to wind up costing Minnesota.
Mike and Booger, one place where I think that the backup has come in and it isn't going to go out again is in Miami, where just watching that game yesterday, Matt Moore, the Dolphins just look markedly better with him as their quarterback than they did with Jay Cutler. They were winning games almost in spite of their own offense as the season was going on. And yesterday, Moore comes in and gives them a real spark. And Cutler's going to be out at least a few weeks with ribs. What do you make of Moore running the offense in Miami with a team that is right now fighting in that division?
It kind of looks a lot better, doesn't it? I mean, when you watch it, to me, Jay Cutler almost seemed like the guy who was at home. He was maybe sunbathing nude on the beach, and all of a sudden he got a phone call. And the phone call went something like this: "Hey, we're going to offer you $5 million to come and play for us." "No, that's not enough." "Okay, we'll give you 10. "No, that's not enough." "Hey, we'll give you 12 or 13. And he turns to his wife and she says, "You better go. You better go. You have to go." And to me, it's like he really doesn't want to be there. And he's kind of going through the motions. And he's making some plays because he's a competitor. But in the end, Greeny, I think you're right. When you see Matt Moore come in, you see a guy that wanted the job. You see a guy that comes alive. I mean, you see the enthusiasm. All the things that you don't see in Jay Cutler, you see him more when he comes in. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he continues to be the starter, even when Jay Cutler comes back.
How close are we to seeing a familiar face at the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos and Brock Osweiler? I'm sorry, Green, about Trevor Siemian, Northwestern guy, but struggling. They get shut out. You actually heard Von Miller start to talk about how it's difficult when the offense doesn't score points, and he immediately started talking about how the defense needs to obviously help even more than that. But are we getting close to that move there as Denver has laid a couple of eggs the last couple of weeks?
No, to me, that's one of them where I don't think you're going to see the move because I think the fans and the organization understands what they have in Brock Osweiler, and they brought him back to be a backup, to be somebody in a situation that just in case something happened. I think that they're fully behind Trevor Siemian, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. I just think that that's where the organization is right now. They drafted Paxton Lynch. Maybe he's a quarterback of the future. I just can't see that organization because of how it ended last time, because of all the things that went on with that, making a move to say, okay, you know what? Let's go back to this guy. Even though there was some success, let's go back to this guy and how it ended and kind of how toxic it was as far as the situation with Osweiler and the fans not wanting him in the organization and not matching the money and all that good stuff. I just can't see a situation where they go back to him.
It's Booger McFarland, who's usually here with us on Mondays. Obviously, always busy. You see him in studio doing all the college football on Saturdays. Always good fun. Thank you, Booger. We'll see you soon.
Anytime. Disappointing you.
What did he say?
Oh, I missed that.
What did he say? I couldn't hear that. We have things flashing in our ears at the same time, and I missed whatever it is.
A couple of things I disagree with. I think Siemian is on the bubble a little bit. Their next game is their Monday night or next week against Kansas City. I'm not saying it's happening right there, but I don't think there's too much more slack for Trevor Siemian out there. I just don't. So I think that may make a move. And about Minnesota, I mean, who's going to win the division? I mean, we're talking about Detroit possibly winning that division. Minnesota's atop it at 5-2. Green Bay's 4-3, and no Aaron Rodgers. Even though we hear he can maybe start throwing in 6 weeks, but at that point you don't know where you're going to be. And then Detroit's sitting at 3-3. So I think Minnesota's in great shape to win that division. You know, the quarterback, you don't have to ask too much of him. You have some nice weapons around you, and that defense is great. So I actually think they're the favorite to win that division.
I'm being deluged with tweets about my question about what you do in the event that you have a quote-unquote mixed sports marriage.
So maybe I'm the bad one to ask because I haven't grown up a fan like that, and so I guess that is a better question for you.
There are a ton of them coming in here. I got a picture of a very cute little girl in a Notre Dame onesie.
Yep.
And KB tweeted, I'm a diehard Michigan fan. This is my daughter with a one-time sacrifice picture for her grandfather, who's a huge ND fan. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to, like, take a picture one time.
Oh, yeah, but it's different if the one spouse is one and the, you know, like we have the Ohio State Michigans. You know, we've every time they come up, we hear of a household that's split. You know, Ohio State and Michigan.
So but how do they raise the kids?
Right.
That's the question. In which religion do you raise the kids in that circumstance? Yeah. That's the question.
The fair question.
I cannot imagine. Like, there are no circumstances under which I can imagine sitting with my son, as I love to do every single Sunday, watching football and having him rooting for the Patriots. I just can't imagine. Now, I guess that if that was my reality, that would be my reality.
It would have been it would have been your reality for years. You would have been sitting there on game days with your wife in a Tom Brady jersey, and
I practically am as it is.
I know you are, but you know what I mean.
Story.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you would have already had years of that and been used to that before you even had your kid. You'd have known that going into the marriage, or you maybe wouldn't have got married. Who knows?
The problem I'm going to have when Brady, if he ever does retire, is that the guy they have waiting to take his place is even handsomer than he is. So, I mean, they're going to have like a 30-year run of handsome quarterbacks, which is, I'm never going to get over this at my house. She doesn't like the Patriots. She just likes Brady because she thinks he's good looking.
Yeah.
And now if they give this job eventually to Garoppolo, he's even better looking.
You say Garoppolo's better looking than Brady?
I do.
Wow.
You don't?
I never really compared the two.
Well, get a picture up of the two of them and go, like, you tell me which one you think is handsomer. Just pure handsome. I'm going Garoppolo. I mean, it's close. They're both handsome guys. Why are you looking at me like that?
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
Hey everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. You know, this weekend really let me see again just how much I love college football. You know, when Notre Dame had the tough year last year, and certainly when they made that run in 2012, my boys were on the team, just, you know, when they're ranked in the excitement week in and week out, and then this game with kind of a play-in game and a play-out game between Notre Dame and SC, just the pageantry of that, to see that all unfold. And then to see, I mean, what was going on at Penn State with the whiteout. I mean, a college football atmosphere, I would take it over an NFL atmosphere any day of the week from the fan standpoint and just the atmosphere around. That was something to watch. Again, I could only have my iPad there because I was at the Notre Dame game, but to see what was going on there and to see just how much those students get involved in just what goes on at Penn State. I had the pleasure to go there a couple times. Didn't go so well when I was at Notre Dame and going there, but man, what a place when things are going well there, and they are certainly going well now.
Well, Penn State had this huge back-to-back weeks. Yeah. They took care of business against Michigan. Now they go to Ohio State, and joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line is the head coach of Penn State. James Franklin is with us. Welcome back, Coach, and congratulations. A terrific performance on Saturday night.
Hey, guys, I really appreciate you having us on.
We did watch, and we actually showed it just now a moment ago, that you told Maria after the game was over that you were only going to celebrate for an hour. So I assume that you have moved past that already and have been knee-deep in Ohio State at this point for 36 hours.
Yeah, I'm a guy that almost to a fault, I want to stay present. Everybody wants to talk about the next game, and we literally the game just ended, and we want to spend a few minutes enjoying it and celebrating it before we want to start talking about the next opponent. So the people that follow us know that that's our routine. But yeah, we watch the tape. I thought we did some really good things. We're getting better. We're growing. But as everybody knows, we got a tremendous challenge. I mean, Urban Meyer and Ohio State, and the fact that we're on the road, it's going to be a real challenge. And, got so much respect for their program and their university and their coaching staff. It's going to be a real challenge.
How long do you give the players? I know you coaches never take any time to really enjoy it. You move on. How about the players? Like, what have you kind of ingrained in them to when to turn the page?
Well, to be honest, I want everybody kind of on the same page. So the coaches, the players, everybody, I want the coaches to enjoy it. I've been too many places where the coaches are miserable, the wins become the expectation, and the losses just destroy you. So, I want everybody to celebrate the wins. We get in the locker room, it's a party. I get upset when I see people, kind of getting changed to get out of the locker room fast, because you guys know, there's no better place than what's going on in that locker room, and the rest of your life you're trying to kind of find that again. So I want to celebrate and enjoy it, and then, we practice on Sundays around here, so we'll practice. We'll come in and watch the tape with the guys, make the corrections, then go out in the field and walk through the corrections, and then do an introduction of our next opponent, Ohio State. And then after that, it's over, and we move on. Monday's off day for our players, and coaches spend the entire day game planning, and then Tuesday's a full practice for us. So, what I tell the guys is, we do have press conference on Tuesday, and we do have this thing called a quarterback club on Wednesday, which is a group of supporters that we meet with. They're the only people that should be talking about Michigan, and everybody else has completely moved on to the next task.
Mike and James Franklin, who was with us. And I'm fascinated by that dynamic of all of this. You're dealing with extremely young people, and you're trying to make sure that everyone is working in exactly the same direction. And Nick Saban used the term rat poison a couple of weeks ago to talk about all the external conversation, particularly when things are going extraordinarily well, which they are. In your case, you have a leading Heisman candidate. You're the number 2 team in the country, a huge win against Michigan. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with all the shows like this one and every other one saying, oh, Penn State they're so good. If they win out, they'll be in the college football playoff. All that talk that Saban, again, referred to as rat poison. How do you deal with it?
Well, a couple things. I think it's harder today than ever, because in the old days you could insulate your players from it, in terms of who went to the press conference and things like that. But now with social media, it's impossible. So, last week I think was a good example. We had College Game Day here. We're appreciative of them coming, but for us, it didn't matter. Prepare. It was a whiteout game. Awesome. Doesn't matter for us. Prepare. Number 2 ranking. Doesn't matter for us. Prepare. Michigan, they beat us pretty good last year. Doesn't matter. Prepare. So, all those things are wonderful for the campus and the community and the fans. But for us, if not handled the right way, it can become a distraction. So, I made it very clear on Sunday in our team meeting that, these things are great, and our guys have earned them. It's not like I want them to stick their head in the sand and act like, they don't know. They've earned it, and I want them to appreciate it. But the reality is, if not handled the right way, it's a distraction. And I used last week as an example, how many ranked teams got upset last week because maybe they didn't handle things well. So, we just try to kind of keep a routine, what I call an SOP, a military term, standard operating procedure, and it never changes. We keep that routine, our formula, and we believe in it.
Talking to James Franklin, head coach at Penn State, and listen, we all know at Penn State what had gone on there, and the distraction's not even the right word for that, of what you had come into there. So forgetting even the on the field part of where you went 7-6, 7-6, 11-3, Pinstripe Bowl to Tax Slayer Bowl to Rose Bowl, and a lot of talk of should have been in the Final Four last year to where you are now. How about players in recruiting players after what went on at Penn State and kind of changing kind of the culture there of getting players to come to Penn State to say, we're starting something over here again. Talk about that process.
Well, guys, I mean, think about it. I mean, we walked into probably one of the more challenging situations in college football history. So I couldn't be more proud of our players and coaches and staff, and we have battled. And I also make the argument, in some ways, it helped us and prepared for this because, you can't listen to anything, the positive or the negative. We had to tune some things out very early on and stay focused. So I'm really proud. It's funny because I made a comment a couple of years ago, and people went crazy, and I talked about negative recruiting, and everybody's like, well, why is he complaining about negative recruiting? Everybody deals with negative recruiting, but the stuff I'm talking about is not normal. We had to deal with a lot of stuff that most college football coaches never have to go into a home or a school and answer and things like that. So I'm just really proud of our staff and our players and how we handled all these things, and to see where we're at now. After some really difficult and challenging things, I'm really proud, and we still got a lot of work to do. We still, have a lot of things that we want to get accomplished, and the way we're going to do that is by staying focused and staying present and staying focused on the task at hand, which is Ohio State, and they got a great coach and a great coaching staff and a great team. So. Take 30 seconds and appreciate what you've done and move on and get focused to the next thing.
They also have a player that everyone in the country has been talking about since the Saturday night game, maybe before that even, but certainly that Saturday night game against Iowa where Saquon Barkley was just so good and the entire country took notice. We get to see him on Saturdays. You see him all the time. Tell us something we don't already know about Saquon Barkley.
Well, a couple things I'll say, guys, is look at what Michigan was doing defensively against everybody in the country. And our game plan was to get Saquon Barkley the ball in a lot of different ways, wildcat, traditional running game, passing game. Seriously, look at the stats of what Michigan was doing against everybody, and then look what we were able to do offensively, and it's because of Saquon. So I know most college coaches, you hear them talking, you're like, he's biased. I've been doing this for 23 years. He is the best football player I've ever been around. And the thing that I would say to you guys, if you get an opportunity to meet him or come here or be around, he's a better guy. And I know everybody's saying, he's saying that because it's his player. I'm telling you, this Saquon Barkley is as special of a player and as special of a person that I've ever been around. And if you have an opportunity to get around him and be around him and see how well he's handled all this success at such an early age is remarkable. And he sets the tone for our whole organization and how he works and how he treats people, how he's doing in school, the whole deal. So, I've been blessed to coach him. I got 2 daughters. They're blessed to be around him. He's a special guy.
It's great to hear, especially when you say someone's a better person than they're a football player, and this kid's as good as he is. Coach, we appreciate the time this morning and the 30 seconds of reliving the Michigan game before you move on to the Ohio State game. Going to be a great matchup. I'm sure you'll be prepared for it, and congrats on really what you're rebuilding there again at Penn State.
Good luck, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, so the guy who actually started our whole conversation just tweeted me again. So I mentioned earlier this guy named Eric Hecker brought up an interesting question. And he tweeted us, he's a Cleveland fan. And as I told you, if you were with us, you heard me. I went on his Twitter page, and I could see he is, everything, his avatar, he's wearing an Indians jersey and everything. He lives for the Browns. And he tweeted a question. His wife is a Steelers fan. They're having a baby. What do? And he brings that up because I told the story of how I sat and watched my son with this crestfallen expression on his face. Go look. I wish you could have seen Stevie's face yesterday. When McCown threw that interception, Stevie, I don't know what to say. And I said to him, look, I've been living this my whole life. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. In case you're thinking, well, it'll get better someday. No, it won't. I'm 50 now. It hasn't gotten better. It just gets worse.
Well, I guess it's true. It doesn't matter worse or not because Ohio State, Michigan people go through this every year. What if Chris was from L.A. and a USC fan? And she was a USC fan and I'm an Notre Dame fan. Both have great histories. Both Ohio State and Michigan have great histories.
Yeah.
how do you choose? And what do you do?
But the difference in Eric's example and my example is that Eric roots for the Browns, who are the nail, and his wife roots for the Steelers, who are the hammer.
Right.
USC and Notre Dame have each won a bunch of championships and had Heisman winners and all the rest of that. I'm talking about a Jets-Patriots-esque kind of rivalry here, which would just be a disaster for me. And I've got a million of them here. Like, for example, Buckeye Brad tweets, as an Ohio State fan, there's no way I could marry a Michigan fan. Now, I would say, Buckeye Brad, that it's not inconceivable that if you met your soulmate,
exactly right.
that maybe you would. But I do understand that for people for whom sports is really that important, and for many of us it is, that would be a real problem. Like if when the Jets are playing, like Stace likes Brady, but just because, you know, she thinks he's good looking.
Right.
And she likes now, it's become sort of a joke in the household. And she takes him every week on DraftKings, and it works. But if she was really a Patriot fan, like if there was really cheering going on in my house when the Jets lost to the Patriots, that would be tough to take.
See, I've never been in that position from a fan standpoint, so it's almost laughable to me that thinking who you root for could affect a relationship. If you really meet someone and fall in love with them and say, this is my soulmate, but they root for Michigan, so I can't marry them. I think it's laughable. I think it's idiot. I think it's crazy. But I'm not in that situation, so I have no idea.
Well, he tweeted, I missed you guys talking about my parenting dilemma. Here's added fuel. I lost a bet. He now has to wear Steelers gear against the Browns on 12/31.
Well, listen, if you're, I don't know what kind of bet it was. If it was a sports bet and you're betting anything on the Browns right now, you deserve what you get.
Probably a mistake.
Right.
So we've got all of that going on. So anyway, all of the Twitter is on that topic at this point. Basically, all of the Twitter is on what you do in these kind of circumstances.
What did you tell the guy? Listen, I can't. What advice would you give him?
I can't do it. So here's the thing, okay? Here's the God's honest truth of this thing. This tragedy in my life, which is my rooting for this team that has never won and has caused me excruciating heartbreak and heartache throughout my life. And as I've said many times, there are teams that have lost longer than the Jets, but there is no team that specializes in ripping your heart out of your chest, putting it on the ground, pouring gasoline on it, setting fire to it, and then stomping on it multiple times to put it out, and then sticking it back into the gaping wound that it left behind. There is no team that specializes in that quite like the team I root for. And yet, I can't envision life any other way. Like, I don't know what it would be like to root for a team that wins. So there's a part of me that feels like I can't allow. I have to tell Eric, no, you just have to live with it. You have to live with the Browns. This is your lot in life. This is the business that we have chosen on although we didn't choose it. It was chosen for me. And in some ways, I think that it makes you it builds character to just constantly get knocked down.
But is that fair? Is that fair? What if the wife was born and raised a Steeler fan, like he's born and raised a Clear? Do you get special dibs because you're the dad?
No.
Does she not have any say in it because she's the mom? I mean, so what are you going to do? You got to do something here. You got to make a decision. Could you, until the kid gets of age to choose himself, kind of
choose himself. You don't choose this stuff yourself.
Put both teams in front of him as he's growing up, as he or she is growing up, and then when she can or he can make a decision, let that person decide?
Once again,
I don't know.
That's almost impossible to do. Now, if you have two parents who are equally passionate about their sports teams, that's where this becomes.
And that's what we're talking. It sounds like what we're talking about here. And you've given him no answer at all. He wants parenting advice. I can't answer this because I think it's crazy, this fandom, but I love the Fanatics, but I've never been one. You got to give him an answer.
They call me lucky, tweets at me. My wife is a Colts fan. I'm a Bears fan. We bet on that Super Bowl, and our first kid came home from the hospital in a Colts onesie.
Oh.
See, this is great stuff, though. Yeah. This is what makes sports great.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing this in the first place. And yet, it's heartbreaking.
It sounds like you love it.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.